Hello learners, this is Saranam Jahan, lecturer in commerce. Today we are going to discuss about the topic planning. Now we will see some definitions of planning. Here we have two definitions. We have taken here two definitions of planning. The first definition is from Mr. Hart. He's a philosopher and he says that the determination in advance of a line of action by which certain results are to be achieved is a planning. So, determining something in advance to take an action in a certain results, that is called as a planning. Now, another philosopher, Kuntz and O'Donnell, says that the selection from among alternatives for future course of action for the enterprise as a whole and each department with it. That is, uh, out of various alternatives, when you are selecting a particular plan for the future course of action for the betterment or get a good result or a common to achieve a common goal of an organization, that is called as a planning. We'll see the simplified meaning of the planning, and it says planning can be defined as thinking in advance what we have to do, when we have to do, how it should be done, and whom it should be done by. This is called as planning. So, thinking in advance is a planning. We can say that planning is a futuristic action, that it is done for the future. That means we are taking necessary decisions right now to be enacted in the future. Here, in which we have to identify, in which means in planning, we have to identify what to do, when to do, and how to do it. Then planning is the first step in a function among the 5 functions of the management. Now we'll discuss about the various features in the planning. We can take them as a characteristics of planning also. Here the first feature is planning contributes to the objectives of the goal. Here planning helps in achieving the objective actually. We cannot think of achieving any objective without any kind of a planning. So we can say that planning is one of the foremost important primary step in accomplishing the organizational goal. Second feature is planning is the primary function of the management. As we all know, a management cannot run without a proper planning. So planning is the first step that any manager or anyone in the decision making adapts to use it to move towards any goal. Now we can say it is a process. When we are thinking about planning, planning is a universal concept. Planning is there in every organization, whether it is a small sized, medium sized, or a large size organization, or at whatever level it is. Every management and every individual or every employee needs to plan at his or her own levels. Now, planning is the futuristic concept. Here, we can say that we do planning for the future itself. Hence, it is called futuristic process. We always stay in the present and plan for the future. So, planning is never done for the past. Planning will be done for the future. So, it is a futuristic concept. Next, planning is continuous. We just don't stop after planning for a single stage. We plan to achieve n number of goals. We do the planning, we do staffing, directing, and then we'll go for the controlling. As soon as the one goal is achieved, then we start planning for the next goal or the next step. Hence, planning is called continuous process. All the time planning is done at every level for the future course of actions. Next feature of planning is planning involves decision making. Here we can say in planning, functional managers evaluate various alternatives and they select the most appropriate or the best suited plan to manage the things or to reach the goals. Next feature of planning is a mental exercise. Here in planning, assumptions and predictions are regarded as the future. So these assumptions and predictions regarding the future are made by the scanning the environment or the market properly. So this activity requires a higher level of intelligence. Next, we'll discuss about the planning process. When we are talking about the planning process, we are having different steps of planning. The first step we can say, in planning, we have to set up some objectives for what we are planning. Okay, the first one is setting up the objectives, and then till the manager does not have any objective, he cannot do the planning. So goal should always be clear, and it should be set up by proper planning. The next step is developing premises. Premises means making assumptions for the future. So the manager can make the assumptions, or alternative, out of that alternative which is the best suited and developed by studying the past decisions. That fact should be adopted here. Then listing the various alternatives for achieving the objectives. Here, after setting up objectives, the managers makes a list of alternatives through which the organization can achieve its objectives. Next is evaluation of different alternatives. Now the managers will see the positive and negative options he has chosen, and then he will follow one or two of those plans so that he will execute and implement that particular plan to reach the organizational goal. Then selecting an alternative. After selecting one or two, next step of a manager could be whether the manager will select that alternative where he will get the most positive, or he will select that plan which he will reject the plan where he will get the most negative. Either he'll select the positive which is getting more positive vibes or the selection process, then otherwise he will reject the plan comparable to first plan which is getting more negative reviews. The next step will be implementing the plan. Now the manager who has chosen the alternative is ready to implement his plan, and he will execute. Next, last step we can say it is a follow up of the implemented plan. Now, what manager had kept thinking, if it is not possible in reality, if there is a difference between them, then we make the certain adjustments to it and follow up in the future to this plan which we are already implemented. Now these are the steps of the steps or process of the planning. Now next we will see the advantages of the planning. The first advantage of planning is planning provides the direction. Here we can say planning provides us a direction in the way how we have to work in the future includes in it. Now by stating in advance how work has to be done, planning provides a direction for the actions. Now second advantage is planning reduces the risk of uncertainties. Now, uncertainty means any event in the future that bring changes to our course of action. Now, planning helps the manager to face that uncertainty. We cannot remove such uncertainty from our lives. However, due to planning, we can work on such uncertainties, and just like an unforeseen event is going to come in, which we are going like we are going in the losses, that could be alterated, and if we are already ready, we have made some funds for it, then we will be able to use it to fight that unforeseen situations. Next advantage is planning reduces overlapping and wasteful activity. Now overlapping means the working relationship that has not been allocated specifically. So when we plan, our time will not be wasted. Then planning promotes innovative ideas. Now, if you are planning, then you get feedback from your senior managers or the juniors. Uh, from their we can say their comments, or with the help of their feedback. With the help of their feedback, we can get innovative ideas. Besides, if you make your employees part of the decision making, then you can get new creative ideas from there also. Next advantage, we can say that planning facilitates the decision making. Now planning helps in decision making, like the more efficient you plan, the more efficiently you plan, the more right you will be in the decision. So with good planning, our decision making gets an accuracy, it gets feasible, it gets flexible, and also it gets improved. Then another advantage of our planning is planning establish a standard for controlling. Now, controlling is incomplete without planning, and planning is incomplete without controlling. If you have done the planning, but you do not oversee that the things is coming or not, then the planning is useless. In case there is no planned output, then the controlling manager will have no base to compare whether the actual output is adequate or not. You have to maintain certain standards to compare it. Then the last advantage, we can say that focuses attention on the objectives of that company. Through planning, efforts of all the employees are directed towards the achievement of organizational goals and objectives, which are kept forward for this planning. Now we'll go for the limitations of planning. With that, some advantages, we'll have some limitations of the planning also, and that says planning leads to rigidity. Rigidity means it's difficult to get change, it will not get flexible. Then once the planning is made, then it's get very difficult to change something in the process of this planning. Now next limitation, we can say planning may not work in a dynamic environment. If continual changes are happening in the environment, then planning will not be effective, as things will not run according to the plan we have prepared. Now, we have made a plan according to the situation, but it is based on environment, whether it is external environment or internal environment. If there are any continual changes, then the right prediction, right planning becomes almost impossible. Then next disadvantage is it reduces the creativity. Now, planning reduces the creativity of our employees, which they are working in our organization, because employees have to work the same set which is already decided. They do not get the opportunity to show their creativity, and they cannot become innovative during the work. Therefore they become rigid, uncreative, and innovative ideas here will be stopped. Then next limitation is planning involves huge cost. When we have to take a very important decision and we have to hire experts from outside to take those positions, their fees are very high, due to which planning becomes expensive or costly. If we purchase equipment for planning which is very costlier, then in that sense planning becomes very costly or expensive for our organization. Next limitation, we can say it is a time consuming process. Sometimes, when long term plans have to be done, or some important plans have to be made in which high level and low level are also included, then it takes a lot of time to do that, and that's why planning is a time consuming process. Next limitation is planning does not guarantee success. Planning, we can say, only provides a base for analyzing for the future. It does not give a solution for the future course of action. So it does not guarantee you the success in the course of action. The last limitation, we can say that it contains lack of accuracy. So in planning, many assumptions are made to decide or to make a decision about the future course of action. Sometimes planning is not accurate, but it is assumed for the future, and it cannot be 100% accurate. So these were the some limitations of planning. Here we are end up with a session. I hope you have understood the topic. If you have any doubts, you can you can leave your questions in the comment box. I'll help you out. Hope you are clear with the idea. We'll meet again in the in a next video with the next concept. Take care of yourself. We'll meet again. Bye.